What if I told you that millions of children start every school day by exercising in perfect synchronization, performing mandatory eye therapy, and participating in a nationwide routine that hasn't stopped since the 1950s? And that's just the beginning. Inside Chinese schools, students take scheduled naps, buy lunch with facial recognition, learn in AI-powered classrooms, and in some cases, eat meals cooked by robots. Some of these ideas are brilliant, some are controversial, and a few are so unusual that most people outside China don't believe they're real. Today, we're looking at 15 real features of Chinese schools that most Westerners have never heard of. And by the end of this video, you'll probably be asking the same question everyone else does. Radio calisthenics, Guangbo Tikao. Every morning across every primary and middle school in mainland China, the entire student body files into the courtyard and performs a synchronized exercise routine together. Same music, same moves, same timing, nationwide. This is Guangbo Tikao, or radio calisthenics, and it has been running continuously since the 1950s. It happens twice a day, once at the start of the morning and once mid-morning during a break. The music plays over the school loudspeakers and every student participates in unison. Government inspectors can and do show up unannounced to verify it's being done correctly. Skipping it is not a personal choice. What makes this genuinely impressive to Western eyes isn't just the scale. It's the execution. Hundreds of students moving in perfect synchronization without any individual opting out in a courtyard the size of 2 football fields looks extraordinary on camera. Videos of Chinese school calisthenics have gone viral multiple times on Western social media, consistently generating millions of views from people who had no idea this was a daily reality in Chinese schools. Some schools have updated the routine to include shuffle dancing, dunhuang traditional dance, or basketball drills. Those videos go even more viral. The Western equivalent is a gym class twice a week that half the students try to skip. China decided that wasn't good enough and built the exercise into the infrastructure of every single school day instead. Mandatory eye exercises. Built into the timetable since 1963, Chinese students perform a structured eye exercise routine once or twice daily. An acupressure massage sequence targeting pressure points around the eyes, designed to reduce eye strain from sustained reading and screen exposure. Students follow a specific set of movements, massaging the inner brow bone, the temples, the cheekbones, and the area below the eye socket, all in timed sequence to music played over the school PA system. Teachers walk the rows to check students are doing it correctly. Skipping or doing it half-heartedly is not tolerated. The reasoning behind it is straightforward. Chinese students spend enormous amounts of time focused on text, both on paper and on screens, and myopia rates in China have historically been very high. The government decided to build a daily physical response to that problem directly into the school day, rather than leaving it up to individual families to manage optionally. Western schools have responded to increased screen time among students mostly by worrying about it publicly and doing nothing structurally. China responded in 1963 by scheduling the solution into every school day and has kept it there ever since. Whether or not the scientific evidence fully supports the acupressure mechanism, the principle, build a physical health intervention directly into the school routine rather than hoping students manage it themselves, is one Western schools have never seriously adopted. The mandatory midday nap, shuxi. After lunch, Chinese students have a scheduled rest period called zayuxi. And sleeping at your desk is not only permitted, it's expected. In many schools, the lights dim, students fold their arms on their desks, and the classroom goes quiet for 20 to 40 minutes while everyone rests. This is a nationwide, embedded feature of the school day, not an optional recovery period. Boarding school students often return to their dorms. Day students stay at their desks. The logic is simple. The post-lunch energy dip is real, it affects concentration and learning quality, and scheduling a rest period to work with that biology rather than against it produces better outcomes in the afternoon. Research supporting the cognitive benefits of midday napping has been building in Western academic literature for decades. The science exists. And yet Western schools have universally decided that 30 minutes of tired, unfocused afternoon learning is preferable to 20 minutes of intentional rest that would make the learning that follows more effective. China looked at the same biology and made the opposite institutional decision at national scale. On-campus hot lunch canteens with 15 to 20 dishes daily. Chinese school canteens are not a sandwich on a tray and a carton of milk. They're full, freshly cooked meals. 15 to 20 different dishes each service, reflecting local cuisine that changes by region. Students in Sichuan get spicier options. Students in the north get more noodles and dumplings. In Beijing alone, over 1,300 on-campus kitchens had been built or renovated by the end of 2025. The food is cooked on site, served hot, and consumed within a structured lunch period that links directly into the midday nap afterward. The entire lunch to rest sequence is designed as a unit, with the canteen experience built to move students through efficiently so they have time to eat properly and still rest before afternoon classes. In most Western schools, a hot lunch is either a frozen processed item, reheated in an industrial oven, or a system so underfunded that the hot part barely applies. The idea that a school kitchen would produce 15 to 20 freshly cooked options per service, calibrated to local cuisine traditions, and do it at a price accessible to all students, is so far outside the Western school lunch paradigm that most parents hearing it for the first time assume it's an exaggeration. Facial recognition in the canteen. Some Chinese schools have replaced canteen payment entirely with facial recognition. A student walks up to the serving counter, the system scans their face in under a second, their pre-ordered meal appears on the screen, they confirm, and their canteen account is debited automatically. No card, no cash, no app to open, just a face. The same facial recognition infrastructure once installed for the canteen has in some schools been extended to classroom attendance. The system clocks students in and out without any manual register being taken. The reaction Western parents have when they first see this technology in action is almost always the same. A mixture of "that's genuinely impressive" and "that's genuinely concerning." Both responses are legitimate, but the pure operational efficiency of a system that processes hundreds of students through a lunch line in minutes without a single lost card or forgotten lunch money is impossible to deny. While Western schools are still sending letters home about dinner money debts, some Chinese schools have automated the entire payment process through biometrics. Evening self-study sessions, Wonks Yu. At Chinese boarding schools, and a significant proportion of Chinese secondary schools are boarding, the school day doesn't end after the last class. Students attend supervised evening self-study sessions from around 6:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., working through assignments, reviewing notes, and preparing for the next day under teacher supervision. This isn't detention, it isn't punishment. It's a scheduled feature of the academic day, as normal and expected as morning calisthenics. Teachers rotate through the study hall, available for questions but not actively teaching. The time is for student-led consolidation, not instruction. The result is that Chinese boarding students arrive home for holidays with their homework comprehensively completed and their material reviewed, not with a pile of catch-up to do because the school day never gave them structured time to do it. The Western model gives students the homework and the expectation to complete it independently at home, in an environment with no supervision, no available teacher, and every possible distraction. China looked at that model and built a better version into the school day itself. The National Smart Education Platform. China runs a single national digital learning platform, Smart Education of China, that is free, requires no login, and covers every subject across every level of education, from early childhood through vocational and higher education. UNESCO has described it as one of the most comprehensive public digital learning infrastructures in the world. Following its most recent upgrade, the platform features AI-generated personalized learning paths, animated teaching characters, interactive activities, and subject-specific resources calibrated to different learning speeds. During the pandemic, it enabled the entire Chinese school system to continue operating online within days. In normal conditions, it gives every student in the country access to the same quality of teaching materials regardless of whether they live in Shanghai or a rural village in Gansu. No Western country has built anything comparable at national scale. The UK has BBC Bite Size. The US has a fragmented ecosystem of third-party platforms that schools adopt individually at enormous cost. China built one platform, made it free, made it national, and put it under continuous government-funded development. A rural student in a remote province has access to exactly the same learning resources as a student in a top-tier urban school. AI personalized classrooms. In 2024, China's Ministry of Education selected 184 primary and secondary schools as official AI education pilot sites, tasked with developing and testing AI-driven personalized learning at scale. These schools use AI systems to analyze individual student performance, identify specific knowledge gaps, and adjust the curriculum and homework assigned to each student accordingly. The 2025 AI Plus Education Action Plan, issued jointly by 5 government ministries, mandates that AI education be integrated starting at kindergarten level, with full rollout across the school system by 2030. Teachers in these schools are required to use AI to customize learning, conduct AI-assisted evaluations, and collaborate with parents through AI-generated progress reports. Most Western schools are still debating whether students should be allowed to use AI tools at all. China has already integrated AI into the teacher's role, built a government action plan around it, and started testing what a classroom designed around AI-assisted personalization looks like at scale. The timeline divergence between where China is and where most Western school systems are on this question is not small. Robot chefs in school kitchens. Beijing's Smart Kitchen program has installed robotic cooking systems in school canteens across the capital. These systems can prepare over 200 different dishes autonomously, maintaining consistent quality across every serving. The robots handle temperature, timing, and portioning, while human staff oversee quality and plating. The scale of this deployment isn't a pilot. By the end of 2025, Beijing alone had 366 smart kitchens operating in its school system, with more installations planned across the rest of the country. The push behind it is food safety and quality consistency. A robot doesn't have a bad day, doesn't undercook the protein, and doesn't vary the portion based on how tired it is. If you describe this to most Western school catering managers, a robot that can cook 200 dishes deployed across hundreds of school kitchens in a single city, the response would be that it sounds like science fiction. In Beijing, it's just how school lunch has been made for several years. The question of when Western school systems catch up to this isn't really a technology question. The technology clearly exists. It's a question of whether the will to invest in school food infrastructure at this level exists. In China, evidently it does. Structured morning reading period. Before the first class of the day begins, Chinese students gather for a structured morning reading period, often 30 minutes of synchronized, out-loud reading or recitation of texts. In primary schools, this commonly involves reading Chinese language passages or memorizing classical poetry. In secondary schools, it might include English recitation or review of key subject material. The entire school reads together, at the same time, in the same rhythm, the sound carrying across the campus in a way that genuinely startles visitors hearing it for the first time. It's a deeply unusual sound to Western ears, and hundreds of young voices reciting text in unison. But the cognitive rationale is solid. Oral repetition of material improves retention and consolidates memory in ways that silent reading doesn't. Western schools start the day with registration, announcements, and the low-grade chaos of the first few minutes settling down. China starts the day with a cognitive warm-up, a deliberate, structured transition from outside world to learning mode, before the first academic period even begins. 2 hours of mandatory daily physical activity. Chinese Ministry of Education policy mandates that all primary and secondary students receive 2 hours of physical activity every school day. This isn't 2 hours of physical education class per week. It's 2 hours per day, built into the schedule through a combination of morning calisthenics, structured recess breaks, and PE lessons. Government inspectors verify compliance. Schools are accountable for meeting the target. It is not a guideline or an aspiration. It is a requirement, and the infrastructure to deliver it is built into the school day from the start. The World Health Organization recommends 60 minutes of physical activity per day for children and adolescents. Most Western schools don't come close to hitting that. China looked at the same evidence and decided to target twice the WHO recommendation, embedded into the school day itself so that whether a child's family prioritizes sport or not, the minimum physical activity target is met regardless. 15-minute active recess between lessons. Between academic periods, Chinese students don't just sit in the corridor looking at their phones. They have structured 15-minute active recess breaks, built into the schedule where movement is the point. This is separate from the longer midday break and distinct from the formal calisthenics period. It's a short, intentional reset between lessons that get students physically moving before the next class begins. The cognitive science on this is solid and has been for years. Short bouts of physical activity between periods of focused work improve concentration, reduce cognitive fatigue, and increase information retention in the session that follows. Chinese schools have built the response to that science directly into the bell schedule. The break isn't an accident of scheduling, and it's a deliberate pedagogical tool. Most Western high schools operate on a passing period model. 4 minutes to get between rooms, sit down, and transition back into learning. The idea of spending those minutes actively moving, rather than walking the hallways, is treated as a radical suggestion, rather than an obvious conclusion from available research. Full boarding school infrastructure at secondary level. A significant proportion of Chinese secondary schools are boarding schools. Full residential campuses with dormitories, canteens, study halls, sports facilities, and medical rooms all on site. For many students, particularly in rural areas or in competitive academic tracks, this is simply where school happens. Not a place you visit during the day, but a full living environment, Monday through Friday or across the entire week. The dormitory culture that comes with this setup is its own feature. Students share rooms of 4 to 8, manage their own laundry, maintain dormitory cleanliness standards, and develop a degree of daily self-sufficiency that day school students don't encounter until university. In the UK, boarding schools exist, but they're private, expensive, and carry specific class associations. In the US, they're even rarer. In China, boarding secondary school is a normal, mainstream option available across state schools at scale, often without the prohibitive fees of Western private alternatives. The idea that a state school can provide a full residential environment as a standard feature, rather than as a premium offering, is almost incomprehensible from a Western school system perspective. Walking classrooms and off-campus civic education. Chinese schools operate a formal walking classroom program where designated museums, memorial sites, research centers, and cultural venues function as extension classrooms with their own curriculum objectives. These aren't field trips. They're embedded learning environments with pre-designed lesson plans, and more than 550 national-level sites have been officially designated as part of the school curriculum. Students visit these locations as part of regular schooling, not as a once-a-year special event. The learning objectives tied to each site are built into the curriculum the same way a textbook chapter is, with pre-visit preparation, on-site structured activities, and post-visit assessment. In most Western schools, a museum visit is a logistical undertaking that takes months to arrange, costs the school significant money in transport and supervision, and happens once or twice a year if everything aligns. China looked at the same cultural infrastructure and decided it should function as a permanent, integrated, structured part of what school actually is, with curriculum materials designed to match. Class committees and student self-governance. Every class in a Chinese school elects its own committee of student officers. A class leader, a study leader, a discipline officer, a hygiene officer, and others depending on the school. These students are responsible for real operational tasks, managing classroom cleanliness rotas, recording attendance, organizing class events, liaising with teachers on behalf of the class, and maintaining order when no teacher is present. This isn't a student council that meets once a month and organizes the prom. It's a genuine operational structure embedded into daily classroom life. The discipline officer is expected to maintain order. The hygiene officer is expected to ensure the classroom is swept and desks are arranged correctly. The study leader is expected to collect and submit homework on behalf of the class. Western schools hand all of that administration to teachers and support staff. China distributed it to students at every grade level, creating a daily exercise in accountability, organizational responsibility, and peer-level leadership that runs continuously throughout the school year. By the time a Chinese student finishes secondary school, they've spent years operating within a student-run governance structure, a practical training and responsibility that most Western schools never build. 15 features, one clear pattern. Chinese schools treat the school day as infrastructure to be designed, not just time to be filled. Whether all of it would translate directly to a Western context is a separate question, but the ideas speak for themselves.